Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. So, Trump has decided to address a new problem, which has actually been on the back burner for a long time, and that is our population decline. And this is getting bad because we've seen by new statistics that all 50 states have seen a decrease in fertility. It's at an all-time low in the U.S., and this is a problem we need to solve. Well, Trump's solution, which is just throw money at it, is not a good one. It's not a good one. The idea is there, like we need to do something about this, but his solution of he said he wants to give $5,000 to every mother who has a baby. If that's no strings attached, that's even worse. It's going to create more problems because right away, the first thing that comes to my mind is you can just be a single mother. You can just have a baby. Yeah, you shouldn't. We should be encouraging people to have families, to raise children, mother and father. You should say that there's strings attached. Like you have to be married. Both parents have to live in the home, things like that, to get $5,000. But even then, throwing money at the problem it's not really the money that's causing people to not have kids. Like kids are expensive. And that's definitely one of the aspects we need to look at is lowering the price of everything. But it's deeper than that. It's that people are not in relationships. You even look at like young people, your group of who's going to get married and have kids, it's like 66% of young men are single and like not interested in dating. It's like, this is not a good sign. Marriages are down, commitments down, clearly, fertility's down. The relations between the two sexes are down. Like people, favorability between like men and women is down. It's not good. There's a clear problem that is causing the disconnect between men and women, which is then causing the lack of marriages, which is then causing lack of children. So you should go back and solve that first. But to start off, let's go with some of the reasons. Let's start with the financial, because that seems to be the thing Trump's like, oh, it's just financial. Well, one, housing's expensive. How do you solve housing? Kick out 40 million people who don't belong here. Stop bringing in all the legal immigrants too. We don't need them. That would solve the housing crisis. I'd bring the housing crisis down. Second part of that, to bring the housing prices down, ban any company like BlackRock from owning X amount of assets. You could say it's $100 million in physical assets or whatever. You could say no company is allowed to own more than 100 homes. Something that allows people to be like real estate agents and whatnot, but not to be like BlackRock that owns literally millions of homes and then rents them out. We don't want forever renters. We want people to buy homes, so you have to do that as well. Back to the legal immigrants. Another thing with that is when people come over and bring their cultures, we know that in diverse cultures, people are less outgoing. They're less involved in their community. They're less likely to give to charity. They're less likely to make friends. They're less likely to have children. So we need a strong American identity. We need anybody who comes to the country legally. We want those to be exceptional people. I'm not saying close the borders completely, but you want them to come and act like Americans and not to make people uncomfortable in their own neighborhoods, uncomfortable in their own country, unsure of the future, and then unwilling to have children. So then also, you have to tackle this issue of the relationship between men and women. Something's gone horribly wrong with the relationship between men and women. No better example than this than Korea. Korea has an even worse feminism problem than we have here. And that's why their birth rate is the worst in the world. I think barring Singapore, but Singapore is more like a city state. Korea as a country, they're going to go extinct. I think it's by 2050, 1 in 100 Koreans will be a child of any age. So Korean people are on track to go extinct. Well, how do you bring that back? Well, you got to have extreme measures. And the U.S. is on track to be the same way, where our fertility is going down. So you need to have men and women in relationship together, having children, having families. So you got to do something about the feminism that's gone crazy. Because right now, women don't even have the choice to be a stay-at-home mom. It's not possible. They say, oh, well, you have the choice. And it's like, legally you do, but every woman has to work. Every woman has to work until she gets married. And that's going to take a long time. They're encouraged to go and get careers during their most young and fertile years of their lives, they're encouraged to work until they can't have children anymore. Then you can maybe get married and maybe have one child. And it's like you need 2.2 to have a replacement rate. It's like most women may have like one when they're 30. So you need women to be able to be single mother, not single mothers, be able to be stay-at-home mothers. You need women to be able to be stay-at-home mothers, because right now the expectation, because we doubled the workforce and have the wages, is that both sides have to work. The mother and the father have to work. Then the child goes to daycare, which is also expensive. So make it available for women to stay at home. Well, how do you do that? You have to do the opposite. You have to double the wages by having the jobs. And you have to probably start encouraging women to be stay-at-home moms and for men to work more. Whatever form that takes, that's got to be a discussion we need to have, because it's not going well. The women in the workforce being forced to go into the workforce, being forced to fend for themselves, is not going very well. After that, saying women and men starting to have good relationships, if you're really, really desperate to keep families together and get the birth rate up. Now, this is the extreme things that I said Korea is going to have to do, and we're probably going to have to do at some point if we don't do stuff initially. Ban contraception. You want kids? Ban people from being able to have sex without making kids, basically. You ban contraception. You ban no-fault divorce. You're not allowed to just say, oh, I just don't love them anymore, or we're having financial problems. That doesn't mean you can't be friends, doesn't mean you can't be in a relationship, doesn't mean you can't live together. You just can't say you're married, take a vow that says in sickness and in health and all that, and then just say, I just don't love him anymore. I'm going to date my personal trainer. We're having financial troubles, so I'm just going to leave him. That's not a recipe for success if you want families to be together. So there has to be an actual reason, and that's no fault. You get rid of no fault. There has to be a fault. If it's something like abuse, if it's something like yeah, they actually have like a serious gambling problem and they're wasting all your money, not just that you're poor. If there's like a serious actual reason, yeah, you can get a divorce. That's totally fine. You just don't want over 50% of relationships in the US to end in divorce. That's not good for children. It's not good for families. It doesn't encourage people to look at their parents and say, I want to be like my parents. I want to have a family and kids. They say, I want nothing to do with that. I don't want to live like that. I've seen how miserable it makes people. So a lot of people just say they don't want kids anymore because it's expensive and it causes problems. And like you have to get married and you have to stay together and you have to be convinced that your wife won't leave you. All that stuff is pretty... And that's getting to the more extreme end, but we got to do something because this is not working out. We cannot have the birth rates totally collapse. And bringing in immigrants, we've seen, just makes it worse. So that's not actually a solution. It just makes makes everything worse. Because even when immigrants come in, one, they destroy the culture, so then people don't want to have kids anyways. But even the immigrants themselves, we've seen as soon as they move to Western nations, like first world nations, so this includes like Japan and Korea, even when they move there, they stop having children as much too. So there's something about like first world countries, there's something about the way we're doing things that is just sick. Like something's wrong because when you add in new people, they start behaving the same way, and the same way is negative. There's negative consequences that come from that. So there is something deeply wrong with how we view families and relationships, but maybe it has to do with the fact that everything in America seems tailored towards making money versus taking care of families, which is what the government should do, is encourage and protect families. Like I said earlier, companies allowed to buy all the houses and then rent them out. Corporations having the wages by basically doubling the work pool and requiring everybody to work. The companies wanting families to be separated because then you have 2 microwaves and 2 cars and 2 fridges and 2 of everything. Or if you're a family of 4, when both kids go to college, now you have 4 of everything. If your parents get divorced, you need to buy 4 sets of lamps, 4 chairs, 4 sets of chairs, things like that, which is like, that's great for companies, great for the GDP. You know what else is great for the GDP, but bad for families? Bringing in immigrants to undercut the housing prices, undercut the wages, flood the market. That also is great for the GDP, but bad for families. So what the government needs to do is the government needs to, if you want children come from families. You need to create healthy, strong families. And throwing money at this problem, and that being your sole solution, throwing money at it with no strings attached, is not a good solution. It's going to make everything worse. I don't think Trump has thought this through very well. And I don't think anyone's really going to stop him, it seems, because they're kind of like dipping their toe in the water to see if this is actually going to work. But it's going to make everything worse. It's like you got to full commit. You got to do something drastic. And you got to actually figure out what's the problem in America that's causing us to be sick, like inherently sick as a nation. Something is causing the massive crisis with mental health in this country, the massive relationship crisis or lack thereof, the lack of having a relationship, the lack of people having real in-person activities and communities. Something is wrong with this country at the moment. And so you have to look at that, and we got to figure out what that is, because all problems flow downhill, right? Like something's up here that's causing the birth rates down here. Like there's something along this chain. We can see the kind of connections, but if we never solve this, we're never going to solve this. So that's my thoughts on this. If you made it all the way through the video, I appreciate it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If there's solutions to help get the birth rates back up, to help with families or relationships that I didn't mention, and what you think of Trump's plan or what he could actually do to make it better. So let me know all that down in the comments below, and thank you for watching.